people hear the word recession, the first reaction is often fear. And for good reason. A recession means slowing growth, rising unemployment, shrinking investments, and for many, financial struggle. But in 2025, the global economic situation is even more complicated than what headlines are showing you. Today, we're going to dive deep into what experts are not telling you about a possible global recession, and why this matters for every single person on the planet. Let's start with the basics. Many economies around the world are already showing clear signs of weakness. Growth in the United States, which has been the engine of global demand for decades, is slowing. Europe is facing both high energy costs and stagnant productivity. Meanwhile, emerging markets, which were once expected to drive global expansion, are struggling with debt, inflation, and currency pressures. Put simply, the world economy in 2025 looks fragile. But why are analysts suddenly warning about a potential global recession? One of the biggest reasons is debt. Governments, corporations, and even households are carrying record levels of debt. After the pandemic, central banks injected trillions of dollars into the economy. That money fueled recovery, but it also created bubbles in housing, stock markets, and even technology sectors. Now, with interest rates climbing and borrowing costs rising, those debts are becoming harder to manage. Think about this. Countries like the United States, Japan, and even China owe trillions in government debt. Servicing that debt, just paying the interest, is eating up a massive share of their national budgets. For businesses, higher borrowing costs mean less investment, fewer jobs, and slower growth. And for individuals, mortgages, car loans, and credit card debt are becoming more expensive, squeezing household budgets. This is the perfect recipe for a slowdown. Another factor is inflation. Even though central banks have tried to bring inflation under control, many economies are still facing higher prices than normal. Food, energy, and housing costs remain elevated. And when inflation stays high for too long, people cut back on spending. Remember, consumer demand drives more than 2/3 of the global economy. When spending drops, businesses reduce output, which means fewer jobs, which then further reduces spending. It's a dangerous cycle. Now, here's something the mainstream media doesn't talk about often: geopolitical risk. In 2025, global tensions are at their highest level in years. The conflict in Eastern Europe continues to put pressure on energy supplies. Trade tensions between the United States and China are reshaping supply chains. And new alliances, like BRICS, are challenging the dominance of the US dollar in international trade. This uncertainty makes investors nervous, and nervous investors often pull their money out of markets, making downturns even worse. But there's another side to the story, something that's rarely discussed openly. Some economists believe that recessions are not just accidents. They argue that powerful interests, including governments and central banks, sometimes allow recessions to happen, or even engineer them, as a way to reset the system. Why? Because recessions often wipe out weaker competitors, push down wages, and allow the strongest companies to buy assets at a discount. In other words, while ordinary people suffer, those at the top often use recessions as opportunities. Let's not forget the role of technology. Artificial intelligence, automation, and digital platforms are transforming industries at an unprecedented pace. While this creates long-term growth potential, in the short term it also means job displacement. Millions of workers are finding their skills outdated, and entire industries are being disrupted. Combine that with a potential recession, and you have a formula for social unrest. So, what does all of this mean for you? If a global recession does happen in 2025, expect to see several things: slower growth in wages, higher unemployment, more volatility in stock markets, and possibly even banking instability in some regions. If you have investments, you may see significant swings in value. If you're working in industries like retail, travel, or construction, you may face layoffs. And if you're living in developing countries, you may feel the pain even more severely, as global recessions often hit the poorest economies hardest. But here's the most important thing: recessions also create opportunities. History shows that those who prepare wisely during downturns often emerge stronger when the recovery comes. That might mean learning new skills, diversifying your income, saving cash for emergencies, or investing carefully in undervalued assets. The key is not to panic, but to plan. So, is a global recession in 2025 inevitable? Not necessarily. Some indicators, like strong consumer spending in parts of Asia and advances in clean energy, suggest that the world economy still has areas of resilience. Central banks might ease interest rates if growth slows too much. And governments could launch new stimulus measures. But make no mistake, the risks are real, and ignoring them could be dangerous. At the end of the day, the truth is this: the global economy is walking a tightrope in 2025. On one side lies recovery and innovation. On the other side lies recession and instability. Which way the world tilts will depend on how leaders, businesses, and ordinary people respond to the challenges ahead. And that's what most headlines won't tell you. Behind the daily news of markets and politics lies a deeper story, one of debt, power, and resilience. Whether or not we face a global recession in 2025, one thing is certain: the decisions made today will shape the economic future for years to come. So, ask yourself this: are you prepared for what's coming?